Hello and welcome to the 8th and final episode of the RAG Austin 7 Special Front Suspension project. So in this episode I'm pretty much going to finish the job so we can move on to much more exciting and new things like motorbikes and brakes and other things like that. So anyway, in this episode I'm going to focus on sorting out the radiator, sorting out the bodywork, modifying the dampers to 3-plate dampers, sorting out the pipe work and a few other bits and bobs, basically just to finish the job off. So let's get started. Right, so I'm now back on the case, and as you can see the radiator's in, but the slight snag that we have is that the track rod hits the bottom outlet. It's actually a mini radiator that's been modified, and the outlet used to be on the other side, or is it the inlet? I forget. Anyway, the bottom pipe is on the other side now, and as it stands it goes up vertically, and that's the way I made it miss before, but now the track rod goes straight through it. So what I need to do is I need to take out some metal out of this frame and move the whole rad forwards, and I've got almost 2 inches worth of space to move it forward. So the theory is if I cut it and move it forwards, I can keep that bottom pipe as it is, and the track rod won't hit. So that's the plan. Take off that horseshoe thing, which is rather reminiscent of a Bugatti, ha ha ha, and cut some great big chunks out of it. So let's get cracking. So after a fair bit of fettling and cutting and grinding and filing, the rad is now sitting actually inside, and I've welded these tabs onto the rad here. You can't see them. They're welded onto the rad, so I'm using the existing tabs to mount the rad, but it now means I've got clearance for the track rod, not shown, and I've got clearance for the axle, not shown. So that's quite good. Now I'm turning my attention to these dampers. At the moment I've got a 2-blade damper, and I'm going to change it to have 3 blades, which means I'm going to have 2 more friction pads, various alloy spacers, etc, etc. So that's my next thing, make some triple blade dampers. And now we have some triple dampers. So to make these work, what I've had to do is this is the plate which is part of the actual hoop. I've obviously now got to have another plate here which has got these little spacers, aluminium spacers, and I've introduced a central extra plate, and they're connected with these aluminium bobbins. So that is it sliding up and down. You don't have to put much tension on that nut to be damping quite nicely. So now it's time to stick the axle back on and connect those dampers up. Front end now on and track rod on, and this means I can now offer up the side panel, because I've just got to make a cutout for the track rod on both sides. So once I've done that, I can sort out the side panels. Then I have to trim the nose, because obviously this axle is now higher, so crack on with the side panels, I think. So I've done an initial cutout, and it does actually miss, which is quite good, but it now means I can measure up and mark up in situ and work out what additional cuts I need to do. So I think what I'm going to do is take it up another inch to account for suspension travel. It's already loaded in that it's resting on blocks on the springs, but probably go up an inch, put a nice radius on it there, have a little cutout there. So do that next. Extra cutout now done, and as a little experiment I've actually jacked the side up, so it's, well, yeah, completely jacked up now, miles off the ground, and I'm getting decent clearance, but extra metal has been cut out, so that's quite good. But also importantly, the steering is still very, very smooth. That twist hasn't introduced any kind of issues. That said, these aren't Loctite yet, so maybe that doesn't prove anything. Anyway, all I've got to do now is do the other side, make that match. Right, so I've done the cutouts on both sides, so that fits quite nicely. I've also done an initial cutout on the nose section. I still need to remove some more material here, probably another 1/2 inch up, to allow for some bump. I've also connected up the dampers, damper drop links. So the only bit of machining left to do is to put a tapered hole in that to accept the tapered ball, which goes on the end of this drag link. So that's the next little machining operation. So this is the tapered ball, and this taper is 1.5 in 12. That's the gradient, and it's a standard taper for steering components. And I found this tapered end mill on eBay, and didn't say what dimension it was, so I've done a test hole in this block of Ali and it fits perfectly, which is a stroke of luck. So I now need to mill, and this is Ali, so this is quite soft, it's quite easy. I've now got to mill the steel arm, which is a bit harder, so I'm probably going to step drill it, sort of drill halfway down through the hole, so this reamer has got less work to do. So I've now got a tapered hole in this arm, back on the car, and in it pops. So that's the perfect fit. So now I just need to connect up this drag link to reinstate that. I also need to do a few other bits and bobs. I need to trim the cowling. I need to make up some water pipes. This water pipe is too short, and that water pipe there. So a few other bits and bobs before it's all done. So the drag link has now been connected. I polished it up a bit as well, put a bit of oil on it, oily rag job. I've trimmed these cutouts for the axle. I might need to do a little bit more. I need to see what it's like on full bump. Also, I have put in a longer hose just here, and a longer hose down there for the water pump, and the fan is now reinstated. Before, the fan was in front of the rad, so the fan was pushing air through. Now it's behind, so it needs to pull air through, so I need to swap the wires on the fan and just run it in the other direction. They work pretty well like that. The design of the blade is such that it can kind of work in both directions. So that is pretty much it for the suspension. I've got a few other bits and bobs to do. I'm going to take it all to pieces and then rebuild it. I'm going to drill for the split pins and things like that, but you get the sense of it. So that's all for the suspension project. If you like that, then hit like. If you want to see what I'm getting up to next, then hit subscribe, because you'll notice there's no back plates on here, and that's because the next major project is going to be all about the brakes. So I'm going to do a complete guided tour of the braking system as it stands, and then tell you exactly what I'm going to do to modify it, which involves different pedals, pedal box, sorting out these front hubs, etc, etc. So hope you've enjoyed it. Until next time, thanks for watching.